Hello everyone joining our webinar today. We are presenting our webinar via Zoom from physical locations in and around Melbourne and Canberra. We begin our webinar by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands from which we are Zooming. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend our respects to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who might be meeting with us today. I am Wai-Ling Kwok, and I co-chair the Awards and Recognition Working Group. I'm joined today by David McDonald and Matea Roda, Zooming from Wellington, New Zealand, two other members of our working group. Nominations are now open for the 2019 AES Awards for Excellence in Evaluation and close on Monday the 1st of July. The purpose of today's webinar is to help you prepare your nominations for this year's awards round. The webinar covers everything you need to know to submit a complete nomination, as nominations with missing sections can't be judged properly. We want to make sure you don't let yourselves down by submitting an incomplete nomination. Next slide, please, David. Our webinar runs for approximately 45 minutes and will cover the different categories for the 2019 AES Awards, the criteria and attributes that must be addressed in your written submissions for nominations to be considered complete, how the awards process is managed, including the assessment phase. And this is the structure of today's webinar on the slide. The content covered today can also be found on the AES website and the information on nominations document, which is accessible from there. That address is aes.asn.au/awards. Next slide, please, David. We have allowed time for questions at key points during our webinar. These can be questions of a clarificatory nature regarding any of the content, or questions you might have about the awards that might not be covered today. In the interest of time, we won't be responding to questions today relating to specific details about nominations you are preparing or intend to prepare. For example, you might be unsure as to which awards category best fits the project you are nominating. We would need to know more about the project to be able to provide proper advice. So for questions like this, we encourage you to email the co-chairs of the Awards and Recognition Working Group, Ian Patrick, and also myself. Our addresses are on the screen. Next slide, please, David.
Now, here you can see a listing of the 8 different awards, the 8 categories of awards. Now, these awards of the Australian Evaluation Society recognise exemplary evaluation practice, evaluation systems, or evaluation capacity building. Now, among these 8 awards, we don't necessarily make an award in each category each year. It depends on the quality of the nominations. What that means is that we do not make an award to simply the best nomination in each category. Nominations are assessed with respect to the degree to which they represent exemplary practice in their particular category. So it's important to understand that a project can be nominated in one category only. Sometimes people feel that they want to nominate a project that may fit into more than one category, or alternatively, that it's unclear which category fits best. As Wai-Ling has just indicated, please feel free to contact her or the other co-chair, Ian Patrick, if you're unclear about what category is most appropriate, and we'll provide advice. Now, we'll look briefly at the 8 award categories. They're described in some detail in the document called Information on Nominations on pages 4 to 6. Now, the first one, as you can see on the screen, is the Evaluation Study or Project Award. And this award recognises an exemplary evaluation study or project in any field that has made or has potential to make a significant contribution to the practice or use of evaluation in Australasia. The second one that we're highlighting here is the Evaluation Policy and Systems Award. as the name indicates, this isn't an award for a project, but rather one that focuses on organisations. It focuses on the policies of organisations, or the systems that organisations establish to facilitate and conduct and use the products of evaluation. The third award is the Community Development Evaluation Award, which recognises the evaluations and evaluation processes of the Community Development Initiative, or an evaluation that, through its processes, has supported community development. Next, and importantly, is the Indigenous Evaluation Award. This award recognises Indigenous evaluation practice, including evaluations led by Indigenous peoples and or conducted in partnership with Indigenous people. And the Public Sector Award is another important one. As the name suggests, that's for evaluations that are conducted within the context of public sector organisations, and evaluations in those contexts that are used to affect real and observable changes in policies or programs. And it recognises not only the evaluators, but also the commissioners of the evaluations and the people who use those evaluation findings. Now, the final three awards are of rather different nature. Firstly, we have the Evaluation Publications Award, which recognises the best journal article or conference paper or research paper or an undergraduate or postgraduate thesis, or other peer-reviewed publications in evaluation. Now, it's important to note that for a nomination to be acceptable under this category, the publication must have been first published during the last 24 months. The final two are awards relating to individuals. Now, we have here the Emerging New Talent Award. This award recognises emerging evaluators who have been working in the field of evaluation for fewer than 5 years. In contrast, the Outstanding Contribution to Evaluation Award is awarded to someone much further advanced in their career. It's awarded to AES members for his or her outstanding career contributions to attaining the objectives of the AES, or to evaluation theory and or practice, and to the evaluation profession and discipline in Australasia. So that's the 8 categories of awards. And in a moment, we'll say a little more about how they are assessed. Before I do that, I'd just like to make a mention of the value of the awards to recipients and others. So here we have some photos of quite happy people. They're award recipients at the time that they were given their awards. This happens each year at the gala dinner, as part of the gala dinner conducted as part of the AES annual conference. Now, with respect to the value or the utility of the awards, perhaps the most important thing is to note that these awards are a form of significant recognition by the evaluators' peers of the excellence of their evaluation work and or other contributions they've made to the discipline and profession of evaluation. Importantly, the awards help to build the quality of evaluation work as our peers gain the opportunity to learn from exemplary practice. So the AES has this award program as a tool for building the discipline and profession of evaluation across Australasia. And of course, the awards benefit the individual recipients. They almost universally find the awards helpful to them in a number of different ways. Now, recipients obviously include on their CVs, on their resumes, the fact that they have received an award, and some also feature this fact in their ongoing email signature blocks. And evaluators who do fee-for-service consultancy work find being able to include the fact that they have been the recipient of their Professional Association's award for exemplary practice a useful addition to promoting their consultancies and strengthening their tenders for evaluation work. And in addition, we've heard from a number of commissioners of evaluations. They've told us that they tend to look favourably on expressions of interest for tenders or tender documents themselves from evaluators who have been award recipients, as it demonstrates their advanced skills in evaluation. I'd like to turn now to refer to the criteria used to assess the nominations. There are three top-line criteria, as you can see on this slide: professionalism, ethical conduct, and the excellence of the evaluation work. Professional conduct and ethical conduct are a bit like screening criteria. Unless they are both met to a very high degree, the nomination has no chance of success. In contrast, the criterion of excellence in evaluation work has 7 specific attributes, and different ones apply to different award categories. We'll go and talk about that a little bit more in a moment. The nomination form itself is an appendix to the Information on Nominations document that you must download from the AES website. It's a summary explanation. Now, all nominations need to be in the form of a summary. They need to be brief. They cannot exceed 7 pages in length. Any nomination that is more than 7 pages in length is non-compliant and will not be assessed. The nominations must assess all 3 of these top-line criteria, shown on the slide now, and all nominations must have supporting evidence to all claims made in relation to these criteria. These supporting documents that provide evidence evidence about professionalism, ethical conduct, and excellence of the evaluation work can be provided as URLs embedded within the document, or the email attachments to an email in the form of PDF files is certainly also acceptable. Now, I'm emphasising the matter of providing supporting evidence because claims made in the 7-page nomination itself without supporting evidence will not be considered. And in all but the most exceptional cases, the assessors look for evidence in support of the nomination from third parties, such as the commissioners of the evaluations and or representatives of the evaluand, the entity being evaluated. Applicants should also be confident the evaluation team or the person being nominated has not caused any significant negative effects on stakeholders or agencies through their evaluation work or products, and that no adverse effects, of course, links back to ethical conduct. And to reiterate what Wai Ling said at the head of the webinar, completed nomination forms must be submitted by email by the closing date of Monday, the 1st of July, 2019. Now let's look briefly at each of the nomination assessment criteria in just a little bit more detail. Professionalism is, as I indicated earlier, an absolutely key mandatory criterion. It applies to all 8 award categories. The awards information package points out that the professionalism assessment criterion refers to, and I quote, the evaluation team or person demonstrating high professional standards in both evaluation and relevant domains, especially in dealing with challenges presented in their work. Applications should reference statements of applicable professional standards from relevant professional bodies where appropriate, unquote. Now, please note, I just read out there from the nomination document, the reference to high professional standards in both evaluation and relevant domains. To clarify, the reference to relevant domains means the domain or domains within which the evaluation is being conducted. This might be, for example, school education, or Indigenous community development, or public health, or international development, etc. So we are looking for professional evaluation practice that contributes strongly to the domains within which the evaluation is applied. Now, in addition, we want to see in nominations references to statements of professional standards that apply to those particular domains, where they exist and where it's appropriate to reference them in the nomination. For example, a nomination of an evaluation in the domain of correctional services might reference the Australian Standard Guidelines for Corrections in Australia. An evaluation in the area of occupational health, for example, might reference the Work Cover Code of Conduct, as it helps to describe high standards of professional practice in that domain as well. Another valuable resource for demonstrating professionalism in evaluation is the most recent edition of the Program Evaluation Standards, produced by the US Joint Committee on Standards for Educational Evaluation. And of course, these standards are widely accepted as global in nature and apply in a wide variety of domains, not just in education. The next top-line mandatory assessment criterion that applies to all the that applies to all of the awards refers to ethical conduct. Now, ethical conduct is something that is obviously of outstanding importance in any evaluation, and therefore is as well in the assessment process. In reviewing nominations, we seek to identify how the evaluation and the evaluators demonstrate high standards of ethical conduct, including adherence to the AES Code of Ethics and the AES Guidelines for Ethical Conduct in Evaluations. In particular, and where applicable, nominations must demonstrate an understanding of the special ethical considerations involved in evaluation work with particular population groups, such as Indigenous people, or people in dependent or unequal relationships, such as children or prisoners. Now, I'm wondering if there are any questions at this point about any of the matters that we've covered so far, particularly issues around assessing professionalism and ethical conduct.
Thanks, David. Just checking you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Have you got any questions that have come through?
There is a question. For a project that involves Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people, is it appropriate to refer to the IATSA standards?
That's a very good question and example. Thank you. So IATSA is the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies, of course, and it has long published its guidelines for ethical research in Australian Indigenous studies. And yes, it would be excellent to reference that set of ethical standards in any nomination for the Indigenous Award, or indeed for other awards that have an Indigenous component. Another one that comes to mind, another set of ethical standards that comes to mind, is the NHMRC Australian National Statement on Ethical Conduct in Human Research. And so it would certainly be appropriate to reference that, particularly for evaluations that take place in an academic context. Thank you for that question.
All right, we'll move on to the next slide, please, David. And thank you, David, for taking us so capably through those three top-line criteria against which all nominations are assessed. And once again, they were professionalism, ethical conduct, and excellence of the evaluation work. We're going to drill down a little bit more into the excellence criterion. David did mention that this criterion is further segmented into a total of 7 different attributes. And here they are on the slide, which for today's seminar, we've conveniently numbered from 1 to 7. Now, it's these attributes of excellence that must be explicitly addressed through your summary explanations for your nominations to be considered complete. In fact, we strongly suggest that your nominations are structured with headings for the criteria of professionalism, ethical conduct, and excellence of the evaluation work, and then subheadings for the excellence attributes. This will ensure that your nominations are complete and not missing important sections. Nominations with missing sections can't be judged properly. So we're looking at these 7 different attributes for the excellence criterion on the screen. It's important to say that while there are 7 in total, the different awards categories require written explanations that address these attributes in different combinations. So you will recall earlier there was a slide where we went through the 8 different awards categories. Each of those utilise different combinations of these attributes in order to be assessed for excellence. So we'll go through those in turn. David, if I could have the next slide, please. So of the 8 awards categories, there are 5 that actually have the same excellence attributes that need to be addressed in the written nominations. These 5 awards categories are the Evaluation Study or Project Award, the Evaluation Policy and Systems Award, the Community Development Evaluation Award, the Indigenous Evaluation Award, and the Public Sector Evaluation Award. So the first 5 of the 8 awards categories. When you address the excellence criterion for any of those awards categories that you might be submitting a nomination for, you need to make sure that you also address these excellence attributes that are up on the screen. And they are the attributes that we numbered previously, but the first 5. So 1, sound use of evaluation theory and approaches. 2, high quality and effective practice in consultation, design, planning, data collection, analysis and reporting. 3, stakeholders highly satisfied with the evaluation work and its use or impact. 4, significant contribution to utility and knowledge in the domain in which the evaluation is conducted. And 5, innovative approaches that contribute to or have the potential to contribute to evaluation knowledge and practice. So please do make sure that for any of these 5 awards categories that you are preparing nominations for, that when you address in your nomination form your written explanation, no longer than 7 pages in length, that when you are addressing the top line excellence criterion, that you also include information and you include evidence of being able to address these 5 excellence attributes. Next slide, please, David. So for the Evaluation Publications Cully-Tollick Award, there are 3 excellence attributes that you'll need to cover off in your written explanations for your nominations. We've talked about 1 already, and we've also talked about 4. And the 6th attribute of excellence, outstanding contribution to the body of evaluation knowledge, for example, through education, training, mentoring, writing, speaking on professional issues. That 6th attribute for excellence is relevant to nominations for awards in the Evaluation Publications Award. So numbers 1, 4 and 6 are the excellence attributes that you will be required to provide evidence against when you put together your written explanation about how the publication you are nominating meets the excellence criterion. Next slide, please, David. So the Emerging New Talent Award, its specific excellence attributes are 1, 2, 3 and 4. And I have spoken of those in previous slides, so I won't read them out again. But just to remind everyone that if you are preparing a nomination for this particular award, when it comes to assembling your evidence against the excellence criterion, you need excellence attributes. You need to address 1, 2, 3 and 4 on the screen. And next slide, please, David. The Outstanding Contribution to Evaluation Award. Again, it's got excellence attributes that need to be addressed in a slightly different combination to the award categories that we've covered so far. So the excellence attributes that will need to be addressed through evidence in your written nominations, your summary explanations, are 1, 2, 3 and 6, which I have spoken of, but also 7, outstanding contribution to attaining AES objects. So this in fact completes going through the excellence criterion and its specific attributes and the combinations of those attributes for the 8 different awards categories. And just to recap, we will need you to address these specific attributes as they are relevant to the awards category that you are nominating for. I can also remind you about the information on nominations document, which is accessible on the AES Awards webpage, aes.asn.au/awards, which spells out the 8 categories and their combinations of attributes for the excellence criterion. So it's all written down there for you. It might also be timely to note that we are recording this webinar and it will be available on the AES website at that address I just read out, aes.asn.au/awards, following today's webinar. Next slide, please.
Thank you. Now, we thought it might be of interest and helpful to you if we gave an example of an evaluation award nomination that was successful. An example, this example comes from last year. It was a nomination for the Evaluation Study or Project Award, which is in fact the category for which we normally receive the largest number of nominations. And the award was made in 2018, as you can see, to these folk here, the Queensland Government's Office of the Commonwealth Games, Department of Innovation, Tourism and Industry Development, and the Commonwealth Games, and the evaluators' names are listed there. The project was titled Evaluation and Monitoring Framework for the Embracing 2018 Legacy Program. Now, this award recognised in particular the broader effects and legacy of this evaluation, as well as the high level of professionalism, ethical conduct and excellence involved, along with the ways in which the evaluation's findings and recommendations were used. The nomination was 7 pages in length, the maximum number of pages permitted, with the first 3.5 pages used to describe the evaluand and the design and implementation of the M&E framework. In the second half of the nomination, they set out their claims against the specified criteria and the relevant attributes under the criterion of excellence. And they clearly covered all 3 criteria and all the 5 applicable attributes in the way that Wei Ling said is absolutely essential. Each was clearly identifiable by means of numbered headings that accorded with the numbering of the attributes provided in the awards information document. We strongly recommend that all nominations take this approach. The 7-page nomination form was supported by 9 documents in PDF formats, including the M&E framework, the key evaluation reports, etc. Overall, the nomination demonstrated to the satisfaction of the Awards and Recognition Working Group, that's the assessors of the nominations, that the project had no negative impacts, its design and implementation were highly professional, and it was ethically sound. The assessors were impressed by the evaluation's sound use of evaluation theory and approaches. Remember, that's one of the attributes under the excellence criterion. And the nomination described this part of their claim as the framework was based on a contribution analysis approach to evaluation and monitoring, working with a benefits management framework. Now, the attribute of excellence, high quality and effective practice was illustrated through evidence that the M&E framework was the most comprehensive one ever developed for the legacy outcomes of the Commonwealth Games, and it represents current best practice, probably global best practice in the evaluation and monitoring of major events. The supporting documents demonstrated the high level of satisfaction of stakeholders, another attribute of excellence. And those stakeholders were both internal and external to the evaluand. And that high level of satisfaction reflected the highly transparent approach taken by the evaluators and the project health checks used throughout the project and the way the results were demonstrated. Now, I won't go on and take up a lot of time going through the other criteria of excellence, but I'll just reiterate that all of them were adequately covered within the 7 pages available. The professionalism, ethical soundness and excellence of this particular nomination, of this particular evaluation that was the subject of the nomination, combined with a clearly structured nomination form and highly relevant supporting documents, meant that the assessors were comfortable the project was an exemplary one, worthy of receiving the 2018 Evaluation Study or Project Award. Wei-Ling, perhaps you would like now to refer to management of the awards.
I shall. So this brings us to our last slide. We've pulled together some points about how the awards are managed. The annual AES Awards for Excellence is managed by the Awards and Recognition Working Group, which is a formal working group of the AES board. Each year, on the closing of the nominations phase, the AES office provides the working group co-chairs with all eligible nominations. Summaries are then provided to working group members who are asked to declare potential conflicts of interest in judging any nomination. Each nomination is then assessed by 2 to 3 judges assembled from the working group, with additional judges enlisted to assist as needed, drawn from our current pool of AES fellows or previous working group members. The Indigenous Evaluation Award is assessed by an Indigenous panel, assembled by an Indigenous member of the working group, appointed by the board. All nominations and supporting documentation are treated as commercial in confidence and are confidentially handled and stored. In the event that no nomination in an award category meets the required criteria and the relevant excellence attributes that we have been discussing in today's webinar, then no award is given for that category. Recommendations for awards are then submitted to the AES board for approval, and awards recipients are announced at the annual AES conference gala dinner, which this year is on the 17th of September, Crystal Palace Grand Ballroom, Luna Park, Sydney, in Milsons Point. So I believe there is one more slide. It has our email addresses. There we go. So the 2 co-chairs, myself and Ian Patrick, and our email addresses. And I'd like to close by reiterating that if you have any questions about the award nomination process for 2019 that we haven't covered today, or if you have specific questions about nominations you are preparing, then please send us an email and we will respond to your questions in that way. And on that note, I would like to thank you for attending today's webinar and for your focus as we've moved through the details of how to nominate. And we look forward to reading your nominations for the 2019 AES Awards for Excellence. Thank you.